from a tier 3 based college and a service based company, it's difficult to get a call even for a product based company.
Hi everyone, welcome back to e-learning bridge. I hope you guys are doing good and staying safe. तो guys आज के वीडियो में हम बात करने वाले एक ऐसी कंपनी के इंटरव्यू एक्सपीरियंस के बारे में जिसने भी पिछले कुछ मंथ्स में फंड रेजिंग के मामले में तो भाई मौत गिरा दी एकदम, मतलब पूछो मत, तबाही। फेसबुक से भी इन्वेस्टमेंट आ गई, गूगल से भी इन्वेस्टमेंट आ गई, पहले से उसमें इंटेल क्वालकॉम जैसी कंपनियों ने इन्वेस्टमेंट कर रखी है और ना जाने किन किन कंपनियों ने इन्वेस्टमेंट कर रखी है। एंड जिसके मालिक हैं हमारे इंडिया के सबसे रिचेस्ट पर्सन मिस्टर मुकेश अंबानी, एंड वो कंपनी है रिलायंस जियो। एंड गाइस गुप्त सूत्रों से पता लगा है कि जिस तरीके की रफ्तार रिलायंस जियो ने पकड़ी है एंड जिस तरीके की प्लानिंग मुकेश जी कर रहे हैं, तो आने वाले समय में कुछ भी हो सकता है, इसीलिए सावधान रहें, सतर्क रहें।
कितने मनुष्य लगे, खौफनाक डकैत।
तो गाइस इस वीडियो में हमारे साथ अपना इंटरव्यू एक्सपीरियंस शेयर करने के लिए हर्ष। उन्होंने अपना ग्रेजुएशन एक टियर 3 कॉलेज से कंप्लीट करा एंड उसके बाद उनको जॉब मिली इन अ सर्विस बेस्ड कंपनी दैट इज कॉग्निजेंट। इस वीडियो में उन्होंने सब कुछ गाइस हमारे साथ शेयर करा है।
कोई सेंस है इस बात की?
जियो का पूरा इंटरव्यू एक्सपीरियंस, कितने राउंड, क्या क्वेश्चंस पूछे गए एंड अपनी करंट जॉब के साथ में वो कैसे अप्लाई कर पा रहे थे अदर जॉब्स के लिए, क्या उनका लर्निंग रोड मैप था, कैसे टाइम मैनेजमेंट करते थे एंड क्या डिफरेंस होता है सर्विस बेस्ड कंपनीज प्रोडक्ट बेस्ड कंपनीज में, क्या रोल्स में डिफरेंस होता है, किस तरीके की तैयारी की जरूरत होती है एंड कितना हार्ड होता है सर्विस कंपनी से मूव करना इन अ प्रोडक्ट बेस्ड कंपनी।
शांत हो जा मेरे बच्चे, शांत हो जा।
तो इस तरीके के जितने भी टिपिकल डाउट्स होते हैं उन सारी चीजों का हर्ष ने आंसर करा है। तो पूरा एंड तक देखना वीडियो गाइस। एंड जो भी बेस्ट पार्ट लगे इस वीडियो का वो कमेंट में जरूर बताना। एंड इसी वीडियो में मैं नेक्स्ट वीडियो की भी हिंट देने जा रहा हूँ, सो बताना कि वो किस कंपनी के लिए हो सकता है। हिंट ये है कि फूड डिलीवरी सर्विस के लिए ही है एक वो इंटरव्यू सेशन। कमेंट करके बताओ, ऑब्वियसली बहुत सारी कंपनीज हैं बट अपना कमेंट बताओ कि कौन सी हो सकती है, लेट्स सी किसका गेस सही आता है। एंड गाइस वीडियो अच्छी लगे तो डेफिनेटली यार लाइक शेयर एंड सब्सक्राइब करके नोटिफिकेशन आइकन जरूर दबा देना। जिस प्रोग्रेस से हम बढ़ रहे हैं वो देख के बहुत अच्छा लग रहा है, बहुत मोटिवेशन भी आ रही है, इसीलिए और अच्छा कंटेंट बना पा रहा हूँ। एंड तुम्हारा भाई अब इंस्टाग्राम पे भी है तो ये रही आईडी, जाके वहां भी फॉलो कर सकते हो।
अब घोड़ों की रेस में गधे भी दौड़ेंगे।
सो अपार्ट फ्रॉम प्रोफेशनल लाइफ जो मैं करूंगा वो सब तुम्हें वहां जानने को मिलेगा। अब ये बकवास करता हूँ साइड में एंड फटाफट चलते हैं सेशन की तरफ। Hey, hi Harsh, welcome to my channel and first of all thank you very much for taking your time out in this weekend and showing your interest to share your experience with our viewers. So first of all I would ask you to quickly introduce yourself.
First of all, thank you, Shashank, for having me here. It's a really good opportunity for me to share my story so that I can help people as I didn't get too much help. I am 𝗃𝗄𝗧, working currently as an SDE1 at Reliance JIO, and I have actually worked as a service-based company named Cognizant, which you all might know. And I have studied from St. Thomas College of Engineering and Technology from Kolkata. It's a tier 3 college. So it is a really interesting thing where most of the students which ping me in LinkedIn, they say that how did you go from a service based company to a product based company, or how did you apply for a product based company and how did you get this opportunity. So like all of these questions can be answered here. So thank you so much, Shashank, for having me.
Thanks Harsh for such a wonderful introduction and let's move on to the next question, that is how did you get this interview opportunity with Reliance Jio and how you applied for that?
So basically a short background I would like to give is that I primarily worked as a Java developer when I entered Cognizant. So I was working as a core Java developer with very legacy systems technologies like core Java, J2E, JSPs for about 1 year or so, 1.5 years or so. But I always wanted to work in JavaScript and Node.js based technologies. So that is the reason why I used to study on my own, do pet projects of my own, learn from courses, apply them, put it on GitHub. And exactly after this lockdown started, I thought that this is the right opportunity for me to take the advantage of the situation. So I accelerated my preparations. I did more of GitHub commits and I did a lot of coding, and then I applied every day for about 20 or 30 applications in Angel.co, in LinkedIn, in Cutshort, then Naukri. So every time when I applied, there were a lot of rejections in that, and then I improved my profile accordingly. And then luckily I got a break with Jio and a few other companies, and they shortlisted my profile. So I applied basically through LinkedIn, and that is where I got the major opportunity.
लो यार, अब खुद हर्ष से ही सुन लो तुम लोग कि मतलब कैसे अप्लाई करते हो ऑफ कैंपस। उसने अब तो प्लेटफॉर्म्स भी बता दिए हैं। सो अभी भी अगर वेट कर रहे हो अप्लाई करने का, तो जाओ भाई फटाफट उधर एंड अच्छे से प्रोफाइल क्रिएट करो। ओके हर्ष, सो माय नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन टू यू इज टेल अस अबाउट द कंप्लीट इंटरव्यू प्रोसेस ऑफ रिलायंस जियो। आई मीन, for experienced candidate, how many rounds were there, and in each round what questions were there, what topic they were emphasizing more? So tell us about that.
So basically, first I applied to LinkedIn jobs, as I said, and then they shortlisted me for a first Hacker Earth coding contest. So it had just one medium level question as per lead code, if you say. So that I completed, and then they reached out to me saying that I had qualified for the next rounds, but there was a break after that for about 15 days or so. They were stuck in some logistics, and they didn't have particular requirement because COVID had just hit then. So then they reached out to me again to continue with the process, and then there were basically 3 interview rounds. First of them was telephonic interview round. It had like I had applied for a Node.js backend role, so it was primarily based on JavaScript abilities. So they grilled me on core JavaScript fundamentals. Then they grilled me on Node.js fundamentals. And as I was experienced, they wanted to know how much depth I knew in Node.js. So they wanted to ask me about design and scaling in that, had I worked on that or not. And that was a lot difficult for me because I had actually never worked on Node.js as an enterprise level Node.js developer. I had only worked on Java developer, but I used to learn as much depth from the internet and doing courses and my pet projects. So that was difficult. And then they asked me 2 DSA questions. One of them was based on backtracking, DFS, and the other one was based on arrays and 2-pointer approach. And along with that, they also asked me questions on MongoDB, as it was a backend role. The second interview round was basically a core coding round. So it was basically on a scratchpad in HackerEarth. There was one coding question, which was a medium DSA question from lead code. And then they then he asked the interviewer asked me about puzzles, one puzzles, and then again a DSA question of medium level, which for experienced guy, as you will know, that it is based on main first sharing the approach, then writing down the approach. Then the interviewer asks us to optimize the code, and if there are any edge cases or not, how to cover the edge cases. Then they will give us a scenario on how what will be the output in this sense, in this case, and then we analyze the code approach in that. So this was the second interview round, and the third and the final interview round was basically a small data structure question, not algorithm, a small data structure question. And then it was after that it was just one puzzle and a bit about unit testing. So how to write unit testing in Node.js.
Thank you, Harsh, for sharing the entire interview process of Reliance JIO. I'm pretty sure this is going to help so many people. So Harsh, you started your career with a service-based company, that is Cognizant. I would like to know it from you that what is the role, responsibility and learning curve for a software engineer in service-based company, and how it is different from a product-based company?
Primarily for service-based companies, but what I have experienced is that it is mainly based on luck. Like you do not know what project you will get, which client you will get, what is the tech stack in there. They just deploy you. If you're a fresher, it's definitely for sure that it's based on luck. It is not based on any coding skill or any technical skill. So that way I wasn't too much lucky, but kind of lucky, because I didn't get any support or any testing based projects, which are very much prevalent in case of service based companies. So that is one of the reasons why people want to join product based companies, because there your role is pretty much defined before and only. So that is one of the difference between service based companies and product based companies, which I actually faced. And secondly, I would say that as a learning curve, I mean, the project which I was, the technology stack was not pretty much new. Moreover, the projects which I have seen more on service-based companies is that they are migration projects. So there's already a very old technology, and they are trying to migrate it into a semi-old technology, not a particularly new technology. So that is I mean, in that case, there's already a foundation being already set up based on the algorithms and the design and structure. Not much can be changed in that. So there's a very less learning curve in that sense. Compared to that, in product-based companies, like there are new challenges and new problems, because there's new features coming up every time, and you have to tackle those problems. So there's a lot of learning curve there. You have to think a lot about what approach you should follow and what design patterns you have to follow. So in that sense, a lot of learning happens there. Thirdly, I would say that like there's a more probability and definitive that you would get a project in a new technology, because your role is predefined. So in that sense, I would say that product-based companies are better, but it isn't that you would get a bad project in service-based companies, but there's a more probability that you would get a bad project.
आई होप गाइज अब आपको क्लियर हो गया होगा कि प्रोडक्ट बेस्ड कंपनी एंड सर्विस बेस्ड कंपनी में क्या डिफरेंसेस होते हैं रोल्स रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज में. आई थिंक हर्ष ने आपके वो डाउट्स क्लियर कर दिए होंगे. सो नाउ यू गाइज कैन मेक योर माइंड कि क्या बेस्ट है फॉर यू. सो हर्ष, हाउ डिड यू स्टार्ट योर प्रिपरेशन फॉर जॉब स्विच along with your current job? How did you manage the time? What kind of preparation roadmap did you create for your job switch?
Yeah, so I mean, this is a really good question, because a lot of people have difficulties in time management and like how to really motivate oneself along with the job, because when one person is in the job for about 2 years or more than that, they kind of get comfortable in that, even though they are not comfortable in working that particular technology or the project, but still they are getting comfortable. So this is one of the obstacles, the first obstacle which you have to overcome to go through. First is that you have to motivate yourself to get out of the comfort zone. Secondly, I mean, I had the motivation entirely because I wanted to work in JavaScript, and I was working in Java-based technology. So that was my first motivation there. When I joined Cognizant, I had seen the job descriptions of all the profiles from LinkedIn, like how do they want the people, which experience, what is the technology stack which they want. Then I looked at the YouTube videos of what questions they ask. So I would suggest anybody wanting to switch from a service-based to product-based company, I would ask them, before starting the preparation, I would ask them to look at the job description which they want to apply for. Look at all the about 10 to 15 job descriptions of good companies. Search, make in your mind what are the technologies which they are asking, which you have to work on. Then make a plan as to where you have to improve and where you have to not too much give time on, because you don't have too much time when you're working for a company like 10 hours every day. First of all, that is the advice which I would give. Secondly, I would say what I followed was that I'm a morning kind of person, like many people are night kind of person. So I used to wake up early. Like I had made for 3 phases of my preparation. For the first year, I solely focused on learning the technologies and the projects which I am already working in, to get the because I just got into corporate world, so I wanted to learn about the corporate world and how enterprises work, how to write production level code, how to debug, how to test the code. So that is what I had in mind for the first year or so. After first year or so, I had planned of first making my CV good, because from a tier 3 based college and a service based company, is difficult to get a call even for a product based company. So first thing which first step in the process is an interview call. For interview call, we need to get the CV shortlisted. So the first thing is that we have to make our CV strong. So what I did was I had aimed for making 3 good projects of my own in either new technologies or technologies which I was aiming at. So I made 3 good projects from about December to March time, posted them on GitHub. And what I would suggest is that whenever you are making any project, push it on GitHub and then deploy it on any of the websites like Netlify or Heroku, and put that URL in your CV, because that makes an impression that you know the whole process of deploying and writing and testing. Secondly, as we all know that in all of the experienced interview rounds, we have DSA round, or DSA is very much primarily focused for product-based companies.
एकदम इन्होंने वक्त बदल दिया, जज्बात बदल दिए, जिंदगी बदल दी.
What I did was there was a daily, monthly coding challenge in Lead Code. So what I did was every day I used to solve one Lead Code monthly challenge and one interview bit question to get me in the flow of DSA. So along with that, I would do about 2 commits in GitHub in every week on the weekend.
धिक्कार है हम पर.
So that is what I would aim at. I did this for about 2 months or so, and after that I solely focused on interviews. So I used to like apply everywhere, like 20-30 applications every day, wherever I see applications, just to get in the rhythm of interviews, like what questions they ask and how to answer them, what are the answers which they are expecting me. And after that I was solely focused on DSA and giving warm-up interviews. So this is basically the short roadmap which I had in mind.
So guys, now I am going to ask very important question जो आप सबके माइंड में होगा, जो भी एक्सपीरियंस हो एंड जो इंटरव्यू देना चाह रहे हो. So Harsh, please tell us, being an experienced candidate, what is the expectation of companies and interviewers from a candidate in terms of data structures and algorithms?
For product-based companies, what I have seen is that there's a more focus on DSA. There's a simple logic for that, is that as I said, for service-based companies, most of the projects are for migration. So the architecture is already set up and the features has a limit. There's not much new things to be done. But in case of product-based companies, they have new features coming up, which has new problems and it requires new solutions. And for requiring new solutions and optimized solutions, you need a strong fundamental base of DSA on how to tackle a particular problem, what will be the optimized solution for that. Because for product-based companies, the scaling is too big. Like if you talk about Google or Facebook, these companies have billions and billions of users. So optimization is the sole focus for them. And that is the reason why they ask and focus too much on DSA. So what topics which I would suggest to anybody is that for product-based companies is arrays, string manipulation, then searching, 2-point approach, and all the basic data structures like stack, queues, linked list, graphs, then the algorithms which are like greedy, backtracking, dynamic programming. And when I say these last few words, which are trees, greedy, dynamic programming, most of the people will get afraid by these. But what I would simply say to everybody is that there are very few interviews where I had applied. For most of the startups which I applied, they grill really deep on these concepts. They actually see your thinking process and how you think for a particular problem, how you approach it, and then they help you along the way to finding out the actual optimized solution. So I would say that get a core fundamental knowledge about these DSAs. You do not need to study and practice too much on these DSA, but get a fundamental and get, like, for trees, you should know about how to do a DFS, how to do a BFS, what is the boundary, all of these simple questions, I would say, like common questions which help you to solve much bigger problems. At least you can think about that in the interviews. So secondly, they expect you to write clean and very concise code. Like, thirdly, I would say that they focus a lot on optimizing the time complexity and like what are the different approaches we can use. So they are trying to get the hold of how much depth we have in that particular knowledge. And lastly, they look for whether we are covering the edge cases or not, because as a experienced guy, they know that we would be writing directly into production level.
So Harsh, you created a proper preparation roadmap for you. So please tell our viewers about some very good resources available on Google or YouTube, which they can refer to prepare themselves as well.
So as I am a JavaScript based developer, so I focused more on learning JavaScript. So there's a course called Advanced JavaScript Concepts from Andre Nyogi. I will give the link. Shashank will put it in the description. Anybody can do that. And there's another course called Advanced Node.js Concepts from Stephen Grinder. It is also on Udemy. These two are the courses which I focused on for backend based technologies, because I wanted backend based roles. For front end also, because I wanted to also focus a bit on front end so that I can target full stack roles also. So I also did a course of complete React and Redux, that is also from Andre Neogi. All of these courses are in depth and they cover the cases which the interviewer can ask in an interview. And like not only they focus on the interview based side, but they also focus on why things are happening, how things are happening in the JavaScript engine. So this is the knowledge which is required for JavaScript. Along with that, I know there are very less amount of JavaScript developers compared to Java based developers. As I was also a Java developer beforehand, so I would also suggest as a resource to do Durgasoft's 200 plus video playlist on YouTube. It is available for everybody for free. So that is the best Java resource for core Java, which I would suggest for anybody. Along with that, there are some few YouTube videos of Java Brain for Spring related courses. And this is the technology side. And from the DSA side, I would say in my college time, like I'm a lot picky about these websites, because there are a lot of websites like Geek4Geeks, InterviewBit, Elite Code. I wanted to do something which is appealing to my eye, so I needed a good UI, and I didn't like CodeChef's UI. So in my college time, I used to do on HackerRad from second year onwards. And this time, as I had solved a lot of problems already from HackerRank, so I actually approached InterviewBit and also Lead Code for daily challenges, so that I get motivated in that sense. And I would suggest for anybody using Java or C++, I would suggest them to do Geeks4Geeks. But as I was a JavaScript developer and I wrote code on JavaScript, but I don't know why Geeks4Geeks doesn't have JavaScript in their compiler. So that's the reason why I didn't do Geeks4Geeks. But I would suggest any of these, like Lead Code or InterviewBit. InterviewBit has a specific set of questions about 170 problems, and from all the main topics. And if you are short on time, which mainly you are as an experienced guy, then you can go for InterviewBit. And if you have a bit of time and you are planning for about 6 months or so, or 8 months, you can go for Lead Code.
Okay, Harsh, so I'll wrap up this session with one last and very important question. Since you are coming from a tier 3 college, so according to you, what is your best suggestion for those students who are in their pre-final years and preparing for their placements, and for those students as well who are going to start their college life?
That is a really nice question, because when I was going into a college, I didn't know what to do. I had no guidance as to what should one do when they are getting into college, so that they can be successful after 4 years or 5 years of joining the college. So I like what I would say for first of all, the students who are getting into the college is that it is always good to start early. The best advice which I would give to anybody is always start early, so that you don't have to catch up. And that is when you have a lot of time to do things, you can plan stuff properly. And it is that once you get behind, then it is very difficult to catch up again and stay motivated, because then there are a lot of more rejections. For students which are just getting into, first of all, I would say start early. Second, I would say whatever is your liking, is it DSA or development, dive deep into that. If you wanted to also do research, you can go into that, because that is also an option for college students. You can start preparing from even second semester for a research paper with your professors in the college.
समझ रहे हो समझ रहे हो आप समझ रहे हो ना
If you are looking for web dev, you can already do courses from Coursera which are free with financial aid, and it's just a form which you have to fill up, and then you can get the course free for after 15 days. So you can definitely do courses from Coursera and learn a bit more about web dev. And there are a lot of things coming up new, like Major League Hacking. Then there is GSOC. So you can do open source contribution also, which helps a lot for people who are just in college to know about the industry level standard. So for web dev, I would advise them that. For people who are interested in DSA, I would advise them to dive deep into these any one of these coding websites. So like CodeChefs for coding challenges, and then HackerRank and HackerRank simultaneously. That is what I would say to all of the students who are getting into the college. And for people who are like in the last semester or the last year of the college, I would tell them that always have one life jacket before you start preparing for the big companies. If you are really aiming for the big companies, always have one job in your hand, so that you do not get depressed over the time that you do not have a hand in job and the other people are having a job. So because that is demotivating, and then it sets you back on your road to big companies. So I would suggest them to have a life jacket, any decent offer from any decent company, even if it is service-based company, just have one offer in hand, and then along the way prepare hard on DSA, because for freshers, DSA is the sole focus. And then I would say that rejections are part of this journey. So like I being enough competent to crack most of the companies in my college time, I was rejected for straight 5 companies, even though I cleared all the rounds in all, but just the last round. So just hang on to that. Take the rejections as you go, learn from it, what mistakes you made, and there are 100 of companies coming up. Then there is no shortage of companies if you look at LinkedIn. So there is definitely one company which will hire you for sure. So even if you are rejected for 10 times, 15 times, don't worry, it will happen. You will work on the mistakes and you will get the offer. So that is what I would say to people who are in the final.
Thank you so much, Harsh, for sharing your wonderful experience, tips, tricks and advices with us. And I am pretty sure like this experience is gonna help so many people, because I have met many number of people on LinkedIn who are confused about these questions and are not able to get proper guidance and proper sequence of resources to follow. So again, before ending this session, I would like to thank you, Harsh, to come on my channel and share your wonderful experience with us.
Thank you so much, Shashank, for having me.
So that's it for today's video, guys. I hope आपको वीडियो बहुत अच्छा लगा होगा, एंड आप लोगों के जो भी डाउट्स रहते हैं रिलेटेड कि सर्विस बेस्ड कंपनीज से कैसे जाना है प्रोडक्ट बेस्ड कंपनीज में, एंड कैसी तैयारी, क्या रोड मैप, सब कुछ आई होप अब क्लियर हो गया होगा. स्टिल भी कोई डाउट है देन फील फ्री टू पुट इट इन द कमेंट सेक्शन, और किसी बंदे को लाने की कोशिश करेंगे, उससे ये सारे डाउट पूछने की कोशिश करेंगे. सो कमेंट बॉक्स भर दो यार फटाफट. एंड अगेन लाइक, शेयर एंड सब्सक्राइब तो बिल्कुल करना ही करना. एंड मिलते हैं अगले वीडियो में, जो हिंट में कंपनी बताई उस कंपनी के इंटरव्यू सेशन के साथ में. सो तब तक के लिए स्टे सेफ, स्टे होम.